My name is Andrew Mack, and I'm founder and CEO of Agromovil. We're an app-based platform connecting farmers, buyers, and transporters to make small-scale agriculture more efficient and more profitable around the world. The idea for Agromovil started about 3.5 years ago with a conversation on a roadside in Nigeria, and an image that I just couldn't get out of my head. I've spent the last 30 years working in more than 80 countries, and in nearly every country I've seen the same thing. A picture on like the one on your left, a small farmer with goods to sell, struggling to bring crops to market, or simply sitting by the side of the road, waiting for transport that might or might never come. Problem is visibility. No one knows what the farmer has to sell. She or he doesn't know who wants to buy. This lack of visibility makes small farming inefficient for everyone. It translates into loss for the farmer, over $300 billion in lost value each and every year, and higher prices for consumers. So the solution is to go direct, putting power in the hands of the people with the most to gain, the farmers themselves and the buyers that want their products, enabling them to bypass intermediaries. With connected apps for producer, buyer, and transporter, Agromovil enables buyer and seller to match on the platform, agreeing on price, quantity, and the date of pickup. These matches are then pushed to our batching engine, which uses machine learning to optimize routes and make pickup more efficient and economical. And Agromovil users can pay on the platform through our integration with major regional payment gateways, providing safer payments and more access to financial services. Agromovil collects user-generated data from across the entire ag ecosystem, enabling a wide variety of audiences, from small producers and local buyers, all the way up to exporters and governments, to plan more effectively, support customers, and offer more value. And our light on-the-ground structure enables us to scale quickly into new markets. Farmers can show produce that's ready for pickup in a few days, or goods that are being planted for harvest in a few months. Buyers worldwide can see production across the Agromovil network, by region, by product, even by farmer. Agromovil will learn about the farmers and the goods that they're producing to understand current use trends and the practices of the next generation of farmers. And we've already learned a lot. We know that older farmers on the right of the chart above are using our platform, but that younger farmers in that really highly sought after 30 to 40-year-old demographic, tomorrow's farmers, that they're using Agromovil the most and that they love it. We've grown fast in the field. From an initial pilot in 3 communities, Agromovil is now expanding broadly across Colombia, which is our pilot market. Through our partnership with the credit union Comotrasan, we have nearly 100 loan officers promoting the platform, and the Colombian Ministry of Agriculture is training its own staff on Agromovil to help Colombian farmers. In a time of constrained markets as a result of COVID, Agromovil is growing, a better, safer, more modern way to connect markets. Social distancing for the small ag supply chain. Soon we start work in East Africa with a large grower network there through our joint venture with USDA. And speaking of the US, with help from a team from Ernst & Young, we just completed a deep dive of the US market where we plan to launch with specialty producers. Think farmers markets who want to match with consumers, or organics, specialty meats and cheeses, the wine sector. As government and industry increasingly focus on improving nutrition and access to fresh food, particularly for underserved communities, Agromovil will be there to power a better, smarter, more sustainable supply chain. Agromovil has won awards and built partnerships with leaders in private sector, government, and academia. And we've done it because our partners recognize they benefit from our success. We have an exceptional technology team with world-class business, technology, and ag expertise. Team Agromovil has decades and decades of experience working with private sector leaders and with the highest levels of government. And our deep international networks will help us grow fast into new markets globally. We've come a long way, and the story is just beginning. Agromovil is already expanding quickly. We're adding new functionality to engage users, to build trust, to help producers and consumers plan, to connect with the financial services sector, and to engage users. My name is Andrew Mack. I'm proud to be the founder and CEO of Agromovil, where we are putting more food, more profitably, on the tables of a hungry world. Thanks.
So there's a question in the chat box, Andrew, from Keith Larson.
Sure.
Buyers use the platform to trace lots and give assurance of how products were sourced. for child labor as well as
Right. So it's a great question. So one of the so we're not in between the farmer and the buyer, right? But one of the things that what we're doing is allowing the farmer to put to be able to put down markers for their organic status, for their status of export readiness, origin, things like that.
Andrew, can you maybe compare and contrast kind of where you're going to participate compared to, say, Farmers Business Network that was high profiled in the Wall Street Journal last week, getting kind of crushed by the big players in the world that are not going to don't seem to be allowing them to carve out a market?
Yeah, so one of the things that COVID has been an interesting experience because it's shown us just how centralized our supply chains are. And one of the things that we have seen is just how much demand there is from the small farmer side to be able to go as directly as possible. Think about the connection between small restaurants and small farmers and things like that. So what's nice about the platform is it's immensely scalable. It puts the real onus on the user. I, as a user, can jump onto the platform. I can raise my hand and say, I'm interested in doing this. I don't have to go through a big centralized supply chain. And for an awful lot of people, what we're seeing is that this is the missing piece. Something like 30% of all of the goods that are produced, even in some of the Western states in the United States, never end up getting picked up. This puts the power in the hands of the producers themselves.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm up here in New England,
Okay.
just north of Massachusetts, so Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, and there's over 300 local farmers and producers of things like goat cheese and non-processed dairy products, etc. And there's not a centralized location. Could you give us just an example of how your product would work in a tri-state area like this?
Sure. So the way that it works, the buyer and the seller find each other on the platform. I'm the seller. I'm your goat cheese person in Vermont, right? And I have product that I'm interested in getting into the market. So I put it up on the platform, and people who are interested in buying can see it on the platform. Then that allows that you consummate matches on the platform, and that pushes to our batching engine, which in turn helps to arrange transport so that a transporter can find it. Think about the number of times that you've seen people, whether they're at a farmer's market or some sort of a local fair. I mean, we have relatives up in Vermont, so I see this all the time where people come, they have to bring things in their own trucks, which is super inefficient. They don't know what demand is like in the marketplace, right? People who come there, like I did when COVID hit, I started going off to our local farmers markets. I have no idea what's going to be there by the time that I get there. And if the only solution for a small producer is to set up their own website, I have to remember their farm, the name of their website, have to get onto that website. I have to try to make all of those connections. It's super inefficient, and it's super inefficient for them to bring their goods to market. A typical small producer really has not just one job, but 3 jobs. They have to make the food, they have to move the food, and they have to market the food. That's an awful lot for them to do. By centralizing this on a very, very simple platform that they themselves can access, I know what they're looking for. I can make a deal with them, and I can get it picked up either through at a third place like a farmer's market, or directly through the platform by arranging transport.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Are there any more questions for Andrew?
I had one. Can you talk a little bit more about your marketing strategy and what channels you're moving through to be able to get this into the hands of your customers?
Sure. We recognize that trying to reach each individual farmer one by one around the world may be a bit of a heavy lift, right? So one of the things that we've been doing is we've been working through farmers organizations and co-ops and things like that. We just got endorsed by the International Cooperative Alliance, which is the largest roll-up of cooperatives around the world. We're also working with USDA. As we mentioned, we're working with Coltrasan, which is one of the largest credit unions in Colombia, which is our initial pilot market. The idea being that there are a lot of groupings that already exist. There are buyers collectives, there are sellers collectives, credit unions and financial institutions all want to reach these populations, and they all they have an interest in the data on the one side, and they already have relationships with them. So we've made alliances with a number of these kinds of groups, and we expect to do more. We also know that governments around the world really care about trying to promote small farm agriculture. And so being endorsed by the Colombian government and the US government through USDA and others is a part of our success strategy, for sure. The group that we're working with, we're going to be working with in Tanzania is a 40,000 person grower association called the Tanzanian Horticultural Association, and they found us. So there are definitely organizations of real scale that exist out there. What they don't have is a simple tool, a tool that is simple enough for the farmers themselves to understand it, for the buyers to get on, and to make the transaction quickly.
There's another question here. What's the revenue model, and can you talk about the unit economics? How do
Yes.
you product verification, authenticity, and how much are you raising, and what's your pre-money valuation?
Okay, that's a huge number of questions. Let me say them again if you wouldn't mind, and I'll answer them all in turn if I can.
What's the revenue model?
Yes.
Can you talk about unit economics?
Uh-huh.
How do you handle product verification, authenticity?
Okay.
How much are you raising?
Yes.
And at what pre-money valuation?
Okay. Great. Okay. So the easiest one is the revenue model. So let's start with that. We have two things two paths to revenue that we'll handle simultaneously. The first is we'll charge a very small portion, or of, depending on where we are in the world, but we'll charge a small portion of each transaction that's completed on the platform. Currently, small farmers lose between 40 and 70% of the amount of money that they make to intermediaries. So we have a wide range that we can go up to in charging that, and we'll keep our margins low because this is a volume game to getting to the transaction. But the big value is in data. We're going to know things about small farmers that nobody else knows. We have the ability to heat map where they're producing, what they're producing, when it's coming to market. We're going to be able to match up buyers and sellers. Imagine the number of people, whether you're talking about major supermarket chains, you're talking about exporters, you're talking about even if you're just talking about government trying to make plans around the support that they're offering and the infrastructure that they need. Those data subscriptions and the value of that data, most of which is being captured, it's all being captured passively. So the farmer isn't doing anything. They don't need to actively give us any data. That's all happening on the platform. That's going to be big. One of the biggest areas that we think of as a benefit on the data side is in financial services. Most farmers around the world either are unbanked or underbanked, or they don't have access to the financial services products that they might have. And imagine Agromovil as a way for them, you do 20 or 30 transactions of a certain size on the platform, that immediately sends a note to the credit union that you belong to, or to people who are interested in trying to provide you with financial services. They know that you're a better customer. They know that they can work with you. They can upsell you in their market, and that's good news for them, and that's direct revenue. In terms of the unit economics, we've looked at different markets with different sizes of transaction. The key thing is for the transaction itself to make it a trivial decision to go ahead and participate. We want to. It takes only 3 minutes to put yourself up on the platform as a user, and about 30 seconds to post something. And so our goal is to create as much volume as we possibly can. From the perspective of our target market, we're looking at anywhere between 2 and 20 hectares as our probably sweet spot. People above that size typically have their own trucks and their own connections into logistics. But we've been told by a number of people in the U.S. that they would be interested in using Agromovil also to try to meet the small lot needs of the coming economy. In terms of product verification, we, unlike a lot of our competitors, our goal is not to be an intermediary. We're not going to get between buyer and seller. We're never going to own the goods. Okay. So we're going to deal with issues of verification in a sensible way by setting standards on the platform, by having ratings, by giving people the ability to get and give feedback, and frankly, through the community pressure that comes from the organizations and the communities in which they already live. If you're part of a co-op, it's in the interest of the co-op to make sure that the goods that they're putting into the marketplace are good quality goods. You know, mess with me one time, you'll never get a return from me, and it'll affect negatively on your neighbors. And we found that the feedback that we got from the farmers themselves was that was more than enough to keep most people honest. We're currently raising a 2.5 million seed round through a convertible note. And to this point have just been running off of non-dilutive capital that came from foundations and grants. So we've done a lot to already get things built with other people's money that's non-dilutive. And we don't have a pre-money valuation at this point, but I'd be happy to talk with anyone who is interested about that and about any of the other details.